The fear that probably haunts me the most is reaching the point where I can't climb anymore, and where disease progresses to that point where I'm back in a wheelchair. Nearly every time I get sick or crash quite hard, I think, is this it? In Christchurch Airport, there's this huge photograph on the wall of the Ruggedy Range. And it's a beautiful photograph, and I've walked past it so many times and thought, man, I need to climb there. But when I went on to Climb NZ to see if there are any routes, it said 0.
There were people that, when I said that I was going on a climbing expedition to Stewart Island, they were kind of like, why? Nobody climbs down there. Are you kind of a bit mad? So we originally chose Northern Slabs from some information we got from a previous team down there that said that this was the best chance at good quality rock. And it was around 60 metres tall, which is what we were ideally aiming for.
When Nick Allen was 25 years old, he was diagnosed with primary progressive multiple sclerosis. It seemed the mountain climbing adventure seeker would never climb mountains again.
As a teenager and a young adult, I cycled and I climbed and I tramped and I just loved it. But when I was 21, my health started to deteriorate. I couldn't get outside. I could barely walk the flight of stairs at my parents' house. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. That diagnosis really sort of woke me up. I realized that I didn't want to be stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, and that's what I was looking at.
So after I got diagnosed, I thought, right, well, I need to do something. Started exercising, started eating really well, and then just started, slowly was able to make progress.
Against all odds, he fought to get stronger and is back to climbing big rocks once again.
When I told people that I was going down to Stewart Island to climb, lots of people warned me about the possible medical consequences of that for me, the possibility of a crash afterwards. But I felt that I should do this while I have the opportunity, because one day I might not be able to do this, and it's better to risk the consequences than to live with regret. Fear isn't a good reason to not do something. And so this trip for me was really about proving that anybody can go out and have an amazing adventure. So, Stewart Island, how would you categorize your concerns?
Like 2 categories, the ones that we have direct control over,
Yeah.
and the ones that we don't. Had a couple of training sessions. This one's going pretty well.
Yeah.
Last week went really well. The unknowns were the conditions, where we would get our water from, rock quality, accessibility, whether we would actually be able to get any climbing done was a massive one as well.
Clipped. Woo!
Hopefully there'll be no issues with water because it's opaque. We can just leave this out in the sun to do its UV thing. I've lost weight since this morning. It's 98. That's 11 kilos. Packing for Stewart Island was really tricky. There's this balance between keeping the weight down and taking all of the things that you need to be safe in a remote location. There's the weight of the camera, the gear, the food, and the tents. Those are the big 3.
Expedition bolting essentially is just a line with quick draws clipped into knots at intervals in that rope. So it offers protection, doesn't damage the rock, it was light, it was cheap, and that's what we stuck with. Like seat test 1.
And the whole roof gets The pack is comfortable, not the most comfortable weight I've ever taken.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, by the skin of our teeth.
It's going to be pretty heavy, but it's the one day we've got to suffer through it. It's one day.
That's right. We'll land just along here, and then hopefully in the saddle we'll be able to find a flattish area that is semi-clear of bush so that we can actually set up our tents. Yeah, exploring these rocks and hopefully finding some good routes. I was surprised at how rugged it was, actually. There are gnarly cliff faces everywhere, but also the sense of isolation. We were surrounded by water, and this is a really remote location.
This is amazing. It's really exciting. It's funny how, like, having researched this spot so much, it feels really familiar, like I recognize everything, and yet it feels quite foreign.
We're planning this trip for 5 months.
I think just like the anticipation of that length of time and then suddenly being on a beach at Stewart Island was kind of like, all right, now we're here.
It's quite a surreal moment. Yeah.
This is the definition of fast packing.
Ultra lightweight,
Ultra. Yep. And we're just moving so fast.
Oh.
Have a test.
Oh.
Don't stand there. The moment we started encountering mud and any kind of hill, it was just really hard work.
For the first 20 minutes, you've still got all the excitement going.
Yeah.
And then after that, you just hit this wall. And then it's like, oh, why am I doing this? Can we leave some gear here and just come back for it tomorrow? I just came around the corner then. I just saw how steep that was. Carrying a 40 kg pack, it isn't very fun. It just digs into your shoulders. It doesn't matter how good the bag is, it's just heavy and it hurts. Just over that backdrop there is quite a nice flat bit of ground that we can bivvy on. We essentially just bivvied in a clearing in the forest just off the track by a water source.
Kind of feels pretty pointless putting this out. It just like, why?
We knew that it would take a bit longer with our 40 kilo packs, but I just don't think we anticipated how long it would take. So we walked for about 2.5 hours, and we'd hoped to be at the top of the saddle by that point, but we were about 1/3 of the way there.
Nick, how was your sleep?
My sleep was just fantastic. The water is just wonderful. It's like naturally sourced lemonade. We've had a great night's sleep, and we've had a good breakfast, and we've seen 2 kiwi this morning, which is just astounding. And so we're going to head up and start towards walking towards the saddle. Woo. Try not to squeeze the gonads.
Might take up knitting after this.
We're missing.
Get to recline in the seat and just
Watch TV.
watch the Coronation Street.
Fun times.
Yeah.
I'm struggling, yeah. I think the climbing gear is the killer. It's the thing that's added the most weight. And yeah, that's why we're carrying all of this, for the joy of climbing, because it will be great once we get on the wall.
How's everyone feeling?
I'm wrecked right now, but we're so close.
Brutal.
Could be worse. Oh, so sweaty, so relieved. Ah. Woo!
Oh. You see the faces.
Oh wow, look at that crap there.
When we first saw the slabs, I think we were all feeling a little bit secretly, a bit like, oh, what are we getting ourselves into?
We're originally told that they were around 60 meters, which is fine because that's one length of rope.
Oh, that's way bigger than 60 meters. I actually feel nervous.
That's quite big. They were a lot larger than we thought and less featured as well. And so the size of the slabs was problematic. Because they're poorly protected and we don't have drills to put in bolts, we felt like we didn't have enough rope and it could be tricky and dangerous. But the other massive negative was we realized exactly how dense the bush is. We reckon that it would be about an hour and a half of bush bashing there and back each day, so 3 hours each day of bush bashing. And so we cruised past and we went to this lookout. Does this not feel like what you expect paradise to look like?
It's pretty close.
And we kind of turned round and then behind us I saw this big rock poking up out of the bush canopy. So I was like, look at this! This is epic!
This is so amazing.
I reckon that must be like 20 meters. Holy moly!
This has exceeded my expectations on so many levels. We weren't originally going to come to this section at all.
So many potential climbs. So we were rapt when we saw this, and we kind of all agreed that actually, like, this is just too good to pass up. We can camp right beside it. We don't have to walk an hour and a half. We know that we've got the gear to do it. And I think because the big picture purpose of this trip was to help open the outdoors to other people, so make it more accessible. This is a way more accessible crag than the Northern Slabs. This is awesome.
This is probably what most people feel like when they meet, you know, Beyonce.
Yeah.
That's kind of the same emotional level I'm on right now.
Are you saying that rock is your true love?
I think so. Yeah. I put rock climbing over a lot of things.
Today is going to be the first day that we actually sort of get onto some rocks, so it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait. There's a fair amount of protection about. We might just have to get a bit inventive with some of the slings, but I'm pretty confident we can make this work.
Pretty amazing. Just did a top rope of our first climb, and it's epic. The rock is fantastic. It's pretty solid. Did have one hold break off and took a good fall, but the rock's beautiful.
Good thing about this is that it's really accessible. We've had top access that we can walk to. We've set up lines that are really like bomber. We've got a really nice slab. We've got an overhanging face, and then on the other side it's kind of like a bit more vertical, but with a few good lines on as well. So we've got 3 faces to tackle. I feel that the grades today were in our comfort zones. I feel that potentially challenging myself in the next couple of days will be good. Like maybe get on one of the overhanging faces.
Moderate for time. Southwest swell 2 meters offshore.
Drizzle appearing this morning, so looks like that is true. We've got blue sky, but potentially rising winds over the next couple of days. It's not thunderstorms and 5-meter swells and storm warnings, so that's great. After the epically hard day of walking in, the next day we were pretty smashed. And then the following day we really got into the climbing, and it was just amazing. It was really exciting to see everything come together, and before we knew it, we were like actually doing first ascents, and it was just astounding.
Putting up a first ascent has always been a personal goal of mine. I think it's a goal for the majority of the climbers out there. Realistically though, you only hear about the high-end grades being put up on new lines that like nobody's been able to climb at before. When you're the first person on the route, you've got to figure out literally everything start to finish. Where will be the good rests? Where's going to be the crux? I guess there was a very big sense of accomplishment at the end of a first ascent. All right, Nick, all good?
How does that feel?
Amazing.
Hi, Caleb, Micah, and Asher. I've just climbed a route for the first time, and I'm gonna name it after you guys because you're pretty awesome nephews. As long as this mountain exists, your names are gonna be part of this mountain.
In terms of like actually getting more routes, it's just amazing. I've done more first ascents today than I thought I would ever get in my life. I'll be happy with this one.
Well, and then there's the one on the other side.
Yeah,
the third one would feel like a 14.
Yeah, yeah.
We are working on a new anchor for our next lot of climbing. Da, 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 da. One of the difficulties with neurological disabilities is that because it's often an invisible illness, you look fine on the outside but actually are really struggling. I daily live with quite a high level of pain. It can get really discouraging. The thing which I love about climbing is that because it requires so much focus, it's actually one of the few times that I'm pain-free. Because you're just so focused on the climbing that just everything else sort of fades away.
I think the crux was more difficult than I expected, but it was just like one key foot placement and it unlocked the whole thing. It was really enjoyable. It was great.
After everything, putting up a first ascent was mind-blowing. When I was diagnosed as having multiple sclerosis, I actually sold all of my climbing gear because I thought I'm never going to climb again. So to not only return to climbing, but to achieve a first ascent, it was just beyond my wildest dreams. And so anybody who's living with a chronic illness, I just say, man, stick with it. Keep on being active, even though it's hard, and it'll be worth it.
It was going really well. Like I was getting the moves pretty much first time. And then a hole broke off and sent me down to the ground. And then the same thing happened just on a couple of moves higher. So adrenaline's a bit pumping at the moment. When we initially came to the crag straight away, that was the first face we saw. And it just looked too hard really to put anything up. After a couple of days of climbing, I kind of in the back of my mind, I was thinking, oh, well, I could set a few easy routes, or I could really start paying attention to this side of the wall. I just started projecting one of the lines that looked really good. I'd do 3 or 4 moves, a hold will rip off. Fuck's sake.
Oh, that was a big one.
Do the same moves and you think, yeah, right, I've got this now. And then another hold will ping off and you fall. It was pretty frustrating. Wow, this is so much harder than I thought it was going to be. So I decided to rest for the evening and try again top roping in the morning. I was going to give it a lead if I could top rope it, essentially. So it all came down to that last morning that I was going to spend on the face. Got your coffee here, Nick.
Oh, you're amazing.
Hey, Nick.
Hi.
How's it going?
I'm pretty good. Just waking up. Didn't quite sleep as well last night for some reason, so I'm feeling a bit groggy this morning. I also had to take some extra medications last night to get to sleep. I was actually in quite a lot of pain, I think, which is a bit frustrating.
You know, stuff changes all the time. You know, your health is up and down. Some days you can do stuff that's really great, and then other days it's a real struggle. And so there is this non-finite grief. It's a grief that keeps on going. It can be hard to adjust your expectations, and because it feels like it's a continual adjustment of your expectations. And sometimes, just as you're making progress again, you feel like you regress, and that state of non-finite grief is quite hard.
I know I can do the moves, and if I get stopped in my tracks because of a broken hold, it's like not down to me, which is kind of irritating, but I'm feeling pretty confident. Just trying to focus and not think about the difficulty and just enjoy the climb. It's hard when you want something so much though, not to get like really personally involved in it, but it's obviously not the right call to obsess, so hopefully I'll get it done.
Done! Cheers.
Oh, that's so good. Really relieving.
Good job! Well done!
Everything came together. The sequence that I'd figured out was pretty well flowing. I was just blown away. Finally overcoming that was just amazing.
I'm actually quite sad to leave here.
Me too.
I feel like we've accomplished a lot for sure, and so I feel really thrilled with what we've done. At the same time, I've sort of grown really fond of this spot actually. Fond of our camp, very fond of this view. I love how much more simple life is when you're doing this. It's just like eating, sleeping, climbing, and that's about it. There's this beautiful, simple rhythm. It's just amazing to sort of not have any other demands placed on you other than to be present and to climb. I remember walking over to the rock and touching the rock and just feeling overwhelmed with gratitude at what an amazing trip we'd had and what we'd been able to accomplish. The walk out was just, I think it was even more brutal than the walk in. It's the end of the trip and you're going home, and we had left Christchurch the day after the mosque shootings, and so for me there was the sense that we were returning to the world and not knowing what state that world would be in, and not knowing what had happened in the 10 days we'd been away. So we're at West Ruggedy Beach waiting to be picked up, but it's raining and there's like a gazillion sandflies outside. So we are seeking shelter in this tent.
The front that has been promising to come in for about 3 days is now here. Hopefully the front doesn't cut us off from society, but it's something we can't control.
West Ruggedy Beach crew to Stewart Island flights depot, do you copy?
I don't think we could have done with less than the amount that we carried, which is pretty crazy, really.
Yeah.
Soul crushing 40 kgs.
I think it's when we face the unknown that we really discover a lot about ourselves. And going into an unknown situation where you're quite physically isolated, you have to learn how to be resilient and self-sufficient. Those are really great attributes to be able to develop in yourself. When all is said and done, the trip was just an amazing success. I feel so grateful for being able to experience raw beauty in New Zealand, to actually touch something that probably nobody else has touched before. It's quite a mind-blowing experience, and I feel deeply grateful for it.
Cheers!
Grey Ghost Crag was named after the kakapo, also called the Grey Ghost, which used to live on the island. And the kakapo is quite an elusive bird, it's difficult to find, and our crag was a little bit difficult to find as well, so we thought that it was a suitable name.
I was pretty sad to leave. There were so many more routes on that crag that we could have done. I'll definitely go back to Stewart Island.
I think what's so remarkable about Stewart Island is that it's this incredible place where you have remoteness and you have adventure, and it's accessible to all skill levels. So you have hard climbs and easy climbs, and so anybody can go there and achieve awesome things. Here we are in 2019, and there's still stuff that hasn't been climbed, and it's not all hard.
The standard narrative around MS and a lot of diseases like that is that there isn't any hope. And so I think a lot of people do give up because no hope is offered. And I think that that's one of my passions, and to try and encourage people to get outside.
Your charity.
Yes, Mastery Mountains.
And what does it do?
So we give grants out each year, or a few grants out each year, to help people with MS get the specialist training they need or equipment to get outside. And so we're really about sort of encouraging communities that people aren't isolated and providing them with the resources to get outside.